German Chancellor Angela Merkel appeared more than happy to promote her agenda in the crowded hall in Davos. I think we should understand our national interest in a way that we think about the interest of others, and from that create win-win situations that are the precondition for multilateralism. That was apparently aimed at politicians like Donald Trump, who put the interests of their own country first. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe also made it clear in Davos he remains committed to open markets. No growth without free trade. Abe focused above all on digitization and borderless data traffic.
The engine for growth, if you think about it, is fueled no longer by gasoline, but more and more by digital data.
The hustle and bustle in Davos is as international as usual, but the atmosphere is more subdued. Brexit, climate change, stronger nationalism. Instead of the world improving, the future seems increasingly uncertain. The trade conflict between China and the USA hasn't been resolved either, and China is pleading for a reprieve. The US and Chinese economies can't live without each other. That's already the reality. So, the conclusion is that the relationship must be mutually beneficial and win-win. Cooperation serves the interests of both sides, while confrontation harms them. This is a basic principle. Everything sounds reasonable. Improve the world, treat each other fairly. Everyone here agrees. But the world outside of Davos looks different.
DW's Ben Versullen is there at the World Economic Forum. Ben, the trade frictions between the US and China, the world's two top economies, is impacting global trade routes. How's it shaping the debate in Davos?
Basically, pick any company along the promenade here that's represented here at Davos, and they'll talk about the trade war to you. They're all affected in some way or could be affected eventually. As an economist told me this morning, we could see global effects from this trade war for decades from now, which sounds pretty dramatic, but we're talking about the top two economies facing off against each other. And there are not only companies caught in the crossfire, but whole countries, like Australia, for example, which is wedged between Beijing and Washington. I've got the finance minister from Australia, Matthias Cormann, with us. What is that like, being stuck between the two?
We don't see it that way. We obviously have a long-standing friendship, strategic alliance and trade and investment relationship with the United States. And in more recent times, China has become our most important two-way trading partner. But we are committed, and we believe we can continue to maintain good relations both with the United States and with China.
You may see it that way, but you sure are feeling the effects of this trade war. I mean, we're seeing the first signs of a recession, something most Australians wouldn't even know what it is, because you've had, 27 years of positive growth. How are you planning to head off a recession?
The Australian economy continues to grow, and we expect the Australian economy to continue to grow. We are into our 28th year of continuous growth. About 3% growth per annum is what we expect moving forward. The unemployment rate is down to 5%. Wages growth is starting to pick up. Yes, I mean, there are global economic headwinds. We're very mindful of that. There are downside risks. We're very mindful of that. To the extent that there are trade tensions, we certainly would like to see them resolved. We were very encouraged by the progress and certainly the momentum that was generated in Buenos Aires in the wake of the G20 Leaders Summit between President Trump and President Xi Jinping. So, like others, we are very interested in seeing any trade tensions resolved in an orderly fashion as soon as possible.
You're still planning to write a budget surplus after a decade of deficits? Isn't that a bit late?
Well, when we came into government 5.5 years ago, we inherited a weakening economy, rising unemployment, and a rapidly deteriorating budget position. Today, the economy is stronger, the growth outlook is better, employment growth is strong, the unemployment rate is well below where it was anticipated it would be, and indeed the budget is in a stronger and improving position, and our forecast definitely shows that we expect to return to surplus in 2019-20. If you look at our last two financial years, our actual performance has been materially better than what was forecast in our last two budgets, and certainly we haven't seen any data that would contradict what we expect will happen into the future.
Well, I don't want to correct you, but when I look at the figures, I see weak wages, slowing housing, rising debt. Couldn't life get difficult for your embattled PM, Scott Morrison? He's new on the scene.
Well, let me tell you, wages growth would be much lower if we hadn't implemented our agenda for stronger growth and more jobs. I mean, by any measure, the unemployment rate at 5% is well below where it was when we came into government, well below where people thought it would head, given the circumstances we inherited. And indeed, the more recent data shows that wages growth is picking up. I mean, if we continue to increase the level of employment in Australia, which we expect will happen, and labour supply continues to tighten up, of course we will expect wages to continue to increase. I mean, there'll be an election in a few months' time. We will be putting our economic agenda forward. The alternative government will be putting theirs forward, and the Australian people get to decide. That is democracy.
Australian Finance Minister Matthias Cormann, thank you very much.
Always good to talk to you.